2, 3. Downside. You're listening to The Downside.
The Downside.
With Gianmarco Soresi.
I leave Red Eye next Wednesday night. It's always weird. I just always feel when I'm in LA, I'm like, I think it's more that all the shows I do, I have to do well.
Yeah.
And so I always feel very creatively unfulfilled.
Right.
I'm just like, I didn't work on anything new. I just said the same
You're doing the
shit.
hits.
And that's every LA show because I'm just like, please, when I come
Yeah.
back, book me again.
Well, that's nice because you're doing the A material, so you will get booked again, and then come back and do the C material.
Yes, that's the goal. Skip the B entirely, just
Mhm.
straight from the notebook.
Mhm.
New thoughts from the plane. Are we good? Recording? Great. No, I'll just look at my phone now and then.
you.
Thank you so much. Well, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to The Downside. See, you hop right in. That's what you need with a guest. Some
immediately.
guests, I swear to God, I want to test it one day where I'm going to have a guest who's not a comedian and see if I can go the full podcast without them saying anything.
And just keep talking.
And then
No
be like, thank you to our
questions.
guest. Well, welcome to The Downside. I'm in Los Angeles in a cranky mood. Cranky mood. I'm here with a mix of work and pleasure, which is never good. It's a girlfriend's friend's wedding.
Is that really pleasure?
I'm trying to make it pleasure for her, and she's with her friends, and I'm like an antisocial creature, but she wants me to be there and present. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm realizing as I travel, the one thing I need to do is work out. And it's like, I don't even know if it's about being in shape. I think it's just like, that's the one thing that says to me, I'm in control of my life. And today I went to Barry's Bootcamp. Last night I checked what the travel time was. Clean 13 minutes. This morning, 46 minutes. Was very late and was very upset. I don't know how you live here. I don't know how you plan anything here.
Yeah, that's Barry's Bootcamp. That sounds like very intense.
Have you ever done it?
No, because
It's
I've heard of
treadmill
it.
Treadmill floor.
There's too many transitions in that workout for me. I just need to be like, if I do Pilates, I'm just like on that thing.
My mom's a Pilates teacher.
Oh, really?
Do you do the Pilates? Do you like the Pilates where it's like music, or do you do the like 90-year-olds?
It's it's sort of like
Sort of
that.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably a mix between it because it's in Pasadena, and what I say is I always go in and I'm like, they're like, do you have any they basically ask, do you have any ailments? And I'm like, yeah, I just had a baby, and that was 3 years ago, but I just say it so they don't like try to make me do things like harder.
Really?
They're like, oh, it's fine. She's postpartum.
Well, your postpartum, what's like the weakest? Like, what does it affect?
Your whole core. Yeah.
Mm.
Basically, you lose all of that muscle.
And is it because it's because it's atrophied, or is it because it's like wounded, or like, where did it go?
That's a good question. But like, I remember when I always had it's not like I always had abs, but they were in there somewhere because I play sports. And so they're always there. And then after having the baby, there's just like nothing. It's like there's not one muscle there. So you have to build back your entire core.
This is very dumb. This speaks to high school education. The baby, it's under the abdominals, correct?
Yeah, the baby is like under there somewhere. And honestly, even when I had a child, I didn't want to know anything that was going on. Like, I didn't do like deep dives of what happens to my body.
Does the body stuff just freak you out?
I just thought I would like get ill thinking about it. And I was just like, I'm just going to do this once, so I don't need to know.
Yeah.
So you could probably ask me questions and I'm like, I don't fucking know.
Here.
Yeah.
Good. I'll feel smarter then. I wonder if you have if you're really like cut and you have a baby, is there a point where your baby bump has a six pack, like a little stretched out pack?
There are those people that have children that work out the entire time, and I don't know how they do it. Because you're so tired.
What can't you do? Like, you can't do crunches.
You can't do any. Yeah, I hope I didn't do any crunches. Because that seems like the baby would just be crushed.
In terms of movement, like, can you jump, or is the baby like get a headache?
Okay, I played basketball until my second trimester, so 4 months pregnant. I was playing basketball. And then it becomes a thing where it's like, okay, you could get like blunt force trauma, like if I fall down on the court.
Sure.
Yeah.
Or someone throws you a pass and you miss.
Yeah.
And
oh my God. Imagine how bad I am that someone throws me a pass and I miss like that.
Listen, that's not beyond me.
Right.
That seems like a regular catch for me. Well, welcome to the Downside Maternity Edition. My name is Gianmarco Soresi. I'm here with my guest. It's the first time we've ever met.
Yes.
Because you're an LA comedian.
It's going well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
Mo Welch. A comedian, cartoonist. Mo Welch. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Well, this is the Downside.
I'm feeling good.
Cartoonist is the word. What's the worst people say, though? People must say other weird things. Comic person.
Like drawer.
Drawer.
Yeah. Oh, comedian. Yeah. Comedian. Yeah. Comedian person has been like I've been introduced on stage that way. What's the worst you've gotten? You're like, can you just call me a comedian?
The worst I got I get like, I once was trying to, I work a club in New York called LOL.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst club in the world. I'm going to make a book someday. And the host for a while would bring it up and say, the next comedian is the gayest guy I've ever met. And one day I was trying to get taped for America's Got Talent. It's a submission. And I said, could you not call me that when you bring me on stage? And he went up there and he called me the F word. And I said, oh, there we go.
Wow, 2022.
I thought it would help me get America's Got Talent even better. They said this kid was bullied from the moment he stepped foot on stage.
They love a good bully story.
They do. I probably have said it before on this, but they were interested, and my story was my parents are divorced. And they wrote back like, anything that hasn't happened to half the country. But someday, I don't know if I want to do that show still. I might be past the risk of bombing on America's Got Talent.
I don't know. Are they pretty good though? Like with Last Comic Standing, I feel like they were really good about not letting comics bomb and then air it.
No, they pull some funky shit sometimes.
Oh, okay.
They'll attach a reaction to a different punchline, or if it did fine, I think it's like if you do fine, they might make you look bad
in the edit. Yeah, I had somebody come by once. I was doing a show, and they messaged me like, "Hey, I'm from America's Got Talent. I'm watching your set tonight." And I was like, "Why? I would never I would never do that show because I just know that it'd be a bad edit. I just know my luck, or that I would truly eat shit." And they came back and they never messaged me again because I'm sure I went on stage and I was like, I fucking hate everything, just the most depressing.
Their incentive system, those talent coordinators for those shows, at least what I've experienced, it's very weird where they have different producers who kind of call the talent. They go out, they find the talent, and they submit it. And I think their bonuses or whatever is very much tied to who gets through, who makes an impression, who gets the good talent, in a way where I remember like one person was interested, then another person was interested, and like it became a thing of like, oh, they can't compete. They were like, he couldn't submit me because she had submitted me, and I thought, oh great, you both like me, you both go forward. Two people vouching for me, but it was like, no,
it's like The Voice.
Yes. Everything's like The Voice. The Voice is like life.
Yeah.
Well, I want to get to know you in a second. I was just in Richmond, Virginia.
Doing?
Sandman Comedy Club. Great comedy club.
Okay.
Very good. But have you been to Richmond?
I'm actually weirdly going next month, and I've never been to Virginia, but I'm going for comedy as well.
Where are you going? The Improv?
Funny Bone?
Funny Bone, yes.
Yeah.
Richmond Funny Bone. So, I don't know if you know this, Richmond.
I don't know anything about Virginia.
Was I believe Richmond, could be wrong, capital of the Confederacy.
Okay. Ooh.
And a lot of Civil War stuff. They have the White House of the Confederacy.
Okay.
Which, fine, historical thing. They have a lot of Civil War museums, and I went to like the main one.
Right.
And I think a Civil War museum is probably tricky because you want to like present the war, but you have to make clear which side you're on. And you get the sense in the museum it's a little more impartial than you want it to be.
Right.
And maybe a museum should be impartial. Like maybe a museum should be like, here are the facts. But just a little, you could have used a little more like, this is bad. and this
Yeah,
was not
because
good.
that's what, like, when you go to the Holocaust Museum, it's very clear
Yes.
that
yes.
it's about the
No,
victims.
there's nothing in the Holocaust Museum of like, oh, and then there was a tough time where the Nazi soldiers, they struggled to feed their families at one
Yeah,
point. The
right.
rations were so tough.
Yes.
Not that that's not an interesting thing. It's interesting to know, like, oh, look how this thing. But generally, you just don't.
You don't want
You
it.
just don't.
Yeah.
You go, you know what? Let it be lost to the sands of time.
Mhm.
If you were a Nazi, you don't get to have people hear about your struggle,
Right.
and that's
the way it should be.
That's the way it
Right.
should be. But you go to this again. It wasn't like the museum. It was still like pro-union, definitely pro-union. And then you go to the gift shop, and the gift shop, I guess, is there are there's a lot of problems. The gift shop is where problems occur. I've always wanted to find like funny gifts for my girlfriend at like, I went to the Oklahoma City bombing memorial or the 9/11 museum.
Right.
And I always think like, oh, I'll get a gift that's like ironic or funny. And usually at those museums, like I think they were the 9/11 memorial has nothing that could even be construed as funny,
Right.
or inappropriate. They're everything is just the museum logo.
There's
the coaster museum logo.
keychain with your name.
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
This gift shop was like, first they had t-shirts that said, "I am my ancestors' wildest dream." And I'm like, not for everyone in Richmond.
Right.
And if you're that cashier and some white guy in a Confederate shirt comes there, I don't want him to have that shirt.
Yeah.
So it's a weird shirt to sell at this museum that has not made it clear that they are firmly with the Union.
Right.
And then they sell coasters.
Mm.
Coasters of generals on both sides of the war. And again, I don't think you should be able to buy a Robert E. Lee coaster on its own.
Right.
If you went to someone's house who had that coaster, even if they had the whole set, I'd say, why do you have this coaster? No one needs the Hitler and who's the president? FDR?
Oh my God. Don't ask me any history questions.
That's really bad.
I thought you knew your history. You're talking to me. I'm like, great. I'm going to learn something.
Just the Civil War and the Holocaust, but just the German part of it. That's all I know.
Right.
So they had that. They had an album of Civil War songs, but half the songs were from the Confederacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the gift that I thought would be funny. But then I was worried, what if the Confederacy songs are really good?
Yeah. And then
I had to tell people I like the Confederacy, but just for the music.
Was it a CD?
It was a CD. That's how old this is. This feels like this gift shop was created before certain thoughts about like, maybe this isn't appropriate.
Yeah.
To celebrate.
The merch does not sound like it's on point. Sounds like they need a rebrand of merch.
Yeah.
I also don't like t-shirts that have too many like words on it. Sounds like the ancestors one. It's too much to read.
Yeah. Sometimes I see a shirt that I think is funny, but I'm like, but then you're telling that joke all day.
Right.
It's like you're just going around telling the same joke.
Yeah.
All day long. T-shirts are tough.
Mm-hmm.
I want more, but I should have gotten that shirt for.
Did you get anything?
No, I got her like a fucking plate. I really struggle with these gifts, and I think my girlfriend, because she's moved in, and my plates are just the cheapest pieces of shit you could buy.
So you give her one plate.
So I get one plate with a flower on it. I said, "Oh, woman, flower.
Hey, you like this, don't you?"
I did my job. So definitely go see that museum.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. They also have a Holocaust Memorial in Richmond, which is strange to me. I feel like it's to offset the Civil War museums, to be like, hey, we all fuck up sometimes.
Yeah.
And I just think it's kind of wild to think that someone took a plane or a boat to Germany. I'm Jewish. They filled it up with shoes, brought it to Richmond. And it's just a strange, I mean, I guess it's good. There's probably people there who need to know about it.
Right.
But I think it's just a little strange to have a Holocaust Memorial in Richmond when there's so much for Richmond to repent for on their own.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that they go, this museum's bad. Let's just get let's get a little one in here for the
Yeah.
liberals,
Yeah.
put that in there.
And there's no way that's like a good museum. It's not like an authentic
Yeah.
Holocaust memorial. If you went to South Korea and there was a Civil War museum there, I'm like, this is probably like, not going to be the best one.
Right.
How did they get all these Confederate flags here?
Yeah.
Why are we shipping this shit all together? So go check that out. Enjoy Richmond.
Do you go to museums when you're on the road?
I tried to.
Mhm.
I went through a big art museum phase. I'm not. I don't like. I don't ever. If you told me I never have to see another picture of Jesus again, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I like the modern art. I like to go and half the time be like, what the fuck is this? And then see ultimately some animation thing.
Right.
And I go like, cool. Cool.
The
Anything
animation
that looks
room is the
close to
best.
Dragon Ball Z related, I'm like, this is what I'm here for. I want to do more experiences.
Mhm.
I went to Florida. I did a gun show in Florida. I went to a gun show just to like see. And to me,
Right.
like, that's what I want to do.
Mhm.
Go somewhere and feel like people watch with people that I have nothing in common with.
Right.
So that's what I try to do now on the road. I try to do because I'm a workaholic, I like to take an edible during the day, go to one of these things and come up with some bits.
Right.
And I came up with some Civil War bits that now I have to see if they work outside of
Right.
Richmond.
The art museum, honestly, that's a great place to go and think. It's kind of like driving. You can just let your mind
Yeah.
wander.
When you go to New York, do you go to the art museums?
Yeah, I love art museums, but I don't. When I'm on the road, I just kind of walk. I don't go in anywhere. I just walk for miles and miles
Yeah.
and just get the feel of the place,
That's smart.
which is usually only like 6 blocks long and
Mhm.
like a piece of shit city. So
We'll get to those big cities one day.
yeah, one day.
So you grew up in Normal,
Yeah.
Illinois,
Mm-hmm.
which is the name of
Normal's
the place.
finest. Yeah.
Is
Mhm.
it the only city named Normal?
I hope so. It's not a great name. There's also a Sandwich, Illinois on the way to Normal from
Sandwich.
Chicago. Sandwich, Illinois. Yeah.
Which, like truly like the meal?
Yeah. Like the sandwich.
Do they have fun with it? Are there a lot of sandwich shops?
I asked
Or do they
this
suck
guy.
there?
I know this guy. I don't think they lean into it as much as they could, because I was doing a show here in LA and this guy was like, I was doing a joke about how I'm from Normal and he said I'm from Sandwich. I was like, there's no fucking way. I've never met anybody from Sandwich, Illinois. And I asked him that. I was like, are you guys like, I don't know what something stupid in the moment. Like, are you guys like the ketchups and the mustards? Like, what is your, like, at least at school, what is your mascot? Is it something fun?
Off the top of your head, that would have
Not.
crushed. I'm
Off the
sure
top of your
crushed.
head, crush.
Ketchup or mustard, people be like, holy shit.
Like, she's a genius.
Yeah.
And then, when anytime you try to like talk about, oh, I did the best crowd work, and then you say it after you've been on stage, it's like, wow, that's hack.
That's the problem with these. We're all doing these crowd work clips these days for the algorithm. A lot of crowd work out there. And sometimes it's just, I always remember it says the difference between improv and prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's impossible to overstate how much that affects one's enjoyment of it. I saw a show. It was a sketch show. I said, this is awful. It's awful. There was no story. They were stepping all over each other's lines. And as we left, I said, that was the worst sketch I've ever seen. And my friend said, that was an improv show. And I was like, oh, it was pretty good, actually. And it's like, that's the thing with crowd work.
Right.
Where it's like, it's cool, it's present, it's visceral,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not that good.
It's for the moment.
It's
It's
for
for
the
the
moment.
room. I mean, with improv, they always told you like, don't just do improv because you'll never be able to write, and because it's only good in that moment.
Yeah.
It's good for what it is. I mean, it's great. I love good improv. I love bad improv.
You
and
love bad improv.
I love to watch bad improv. It's incredible.
So you're just at like the 101 classes front row.
Yeah,
like-
that to me is like there's like a cringiness that like when your stomach turns, there's that feeling for me is like the feeling of adrenaline or like that's what I'm addicted to. So like even when I do stand up, I try to make moments. Like I try to fabricate those sort of moments of like, what the fuck is about to happen?
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Or like, is she okay? I'm like, they're scared for me up there. I'm like,
Next time a friend asks me
love
to
it.
go to their improv show, I'm gonna say, "Oh, I'm not into that, but I have a friend. She's an addict."
Yeah, she's an addict.
So normal is small. How many people are normal?
It's a mid-sized city. Probably like 60,000. I have no clue, but Illinois State University is there. There's and it's kind of like a Twin Cities deal. There's a place called Bloomington too. So it's Bloomington normal, and you can't tell, there's like a street that is the middle of, I don't know what I'm trying to say, is the line,
And big family. You've said you're one of 5.
1 of 5.
One
Yeah.
of 5. I didn't
Yeah.
research.
Yeah.
And that's all I know. After this,
Yeah.
it's done.
Great.
And you were in normal until when?
I was in normal till I was 12. Then we moved up to Chicago.
So did you like did you like normal? What are the downsides of normal Illinois?
Everything.
Everything.
Yeah, there's no upside. It's just
No upside.
no. Yeah, it's like, okay, normal first steak and shake. That's the best part of it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I had one in DC. Like that's like it's like grungy.
It's
Metal.
depends on how old you are. If you're 10 years old, it's a fine dining.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I
Uh-huh.
get that. And it's like it's 24/7?
I don't know. It's at least open pretty late.
Yeah.
Great name,
Great name.
but like also steak. You're like, am I getting a fork? Am I getting a plastic fork and knife here, or is this like
Sure.
or is it just the burger? They have great shakes.
I'm
If
gonna
you're
go
a
there
shake,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
connoisseur.
I'm a shake guy once
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
When Barry's Bootcamp, when I went to it on time.
Wow, you're so good.
I have a disorder. So normal, it's boring, no culture. I would assume.
Yeah, it's
No
just
arts?
cornfields.
Cornfields.
Cornfields outside of it. It's super like the thing is like in Illinois, there's Chicago, and then there's like the rest of Illinois, and
Yeah.
the rest of Illinois looks like Iowa and Indiana. It's just cornfields. Nothing.
Now, as a kid, do you play in the cornfields?
I
Or
worked
you
in the
s-
cornfields.
You worked in the
Yeah,
cornfields.
detasseling corn, child labor, absolutely.
For the family?
For me, for clothes, for fashion. No, I mean I worked for fashion. It was a friend of mine. Her dad, like, I don't know, he was like the head of child labor in in Central Illinois, and got us these summer jobs and it's horrible. It's as bad as it sounds. You're just like in the cornfields. You have to put on long sleeves because you'll get corn rash. It's
Corn
the-
rash.
Yeah.
What is that? What is corn rash?
It's
Is it-
just like a rash that you get that you can wash off. Like when
Okay.
you take a shower, it goes away. But yeah, it's like little scratches and bumps. So you got to wear long sleeves, and it's like 200 degrees in those cornfields. It's horrible.
You're what? You're 12. You're 11. How much corn are you picking?
Yeah, I was 11 and 12 years old.
You can't be like a super useful asset to this. Don't they
Those-
have machines?
I
that do all
think
this?
maybe they have machines that do them now, but back in the 1800s, when I was coming up, they
And
were
You have a
still
wheelbarrow?
using kids. No, you actually just like take out a piece of the corn in the middle, and you just go like this so that it like can keep growing or something. Here again, I'm like refusing to learn anything about what I'm doing, but just taking it out and then throwing it,
On the ground.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
throw the corn
It's
on the
just a
ground?
piece of it, and you just like take it out. So you're going each stalk. You're just like 1, 2. It's like
These are
thousands
full-
and thousands.
Full corn cups. Corn on top.
No. They're just like it's this green. It's just part of the corn, and you pull it out. I think so it can grow more, but it has to like you're just pulling a plug kind of.
And were you paid on the hour?
Yeah,
hour?
it was
How
like
much?
$6 an hour.
$6 an hour.
Yeah,
And you were using this money for clothes.
fashion. Yeah,
What were you shopping back then?
Farm and Fleet.
Farm and Fleet?
Yeah,
Is that a chain or is
it's
that like a?
it's like a Walmart for farmers. So you can get like your
I thought
your
Walmart was
farming.
for farmers already.
Yeah, exactly. This is like even more into that community, and it's just farming materials, and they got a little fashion section.
How,
get your
how high
jeans.
fashion are we talking?
We're talking the lowest you can get.
Yeah, like this blouse has corn shields already built in on the sleeves,
Right.
bedazzled leggings.
Technology.
And so you got the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
And why? What's the family situation?
We were running away from my dad, who
Running
was
away from your dad.
abusive. Yeah.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And did you mind if I ask about?
Oh, I don't care.
When did that? Was that throughout? Did that
Yeah,
start?
that was throughout our life, but he was in and out of our lives. And so he would leave for 2 years, come back.
Where did he go in those 2 years?
It's a great question.
Was he drinking?
My mom would say he was just kind of on a walkabout, but it was like a very long walk. You know, it'd be for 2 years. He one time he went to Arkansas and just like worked there. Definitely cheating on my mom. I mean,
Sure.
At that point you're like, that's like the 5th thing down the list that you care about.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just kind of like not into being a dad or a husband.
But he had 5 kids?
5 kids.
What number are you?
2.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember a time when what age were you like, oh, my dad's fucked up?
I mean, it was pretty early, and this is weird, but he was so consistent at being inconsistent that it didn't fuck me up that much, because he was always in and out. So it was just like, he weirdly was, it would have been weird if for the first 12 years of my life, he was there and he was my dad and then he was leaving.
Yes.
Right. So it was kind of just like the norm.
I agree with that to a certain degree. Where I grew up with, my parents were already divorced, so in a degree it was like the norm.
Right.
And then I saw what my mother and stepfather, their divorce, how it affected their kids who grew up with it. And I'm like, oh, that's a more, not to level trauma.
Yeah.
But that's like more of a jarring. It's more of an acute, like everything's topsy-turvy.
Yeah, especially when you're a kid and that's like your safety net. But for us, we were always moving. We were always like, poor and like.
Was your dad, did he have any good spurts?
Yeah.
Was he
sometimes
he fun?
Sometimes he was funny. My dad is extremely athletic. So I was like really into sports. And so, I remember playing basketball with him a couple times.
Yeah.
He tried to teach me how to drive when I was 12, and
Sure.
It was stick shift. There was some fun moments in there.
Was he a good teacher?
I mean, I didn't learn how to do it, so
I
think you'd have to stay there longer than a couple days to teach someone how to drive.
My dad taught me how to drive, and that's why I don't know how to drive.
What was the car?
Oh, he had like a big fucking, because he had horses, so he had a big fucking truck. He had like he loved horses.
Yeah.
He just grew up. I think some people, I don't want to label all horse people this, but I've always thought fucked up horse people are the most fucked up people because they need a mammal that big who won't judge them.
Right.
And a dog won't do it for these people. They need something bigger than them.
Right.
That they can give a hug to, and the horse doesn't know the horrible crimes they've committed in life. I think fucked up horse people are.
Well, yeah, because you can't have I don't really have any horse people in my life, and I think you do have to limit them for your own sanity.
Sure.
So you might only have you can maybe only handle having one horse person in your life.
Yes, and that is my father, and that is it. We even had he at some point the barn got too expensive or something, so he kept the horse in our backyard. We had some forestry in Maryland in the backyard.
Did you guys have corn?
No, we had a very it's not a full there's definitely so many things I don't know about growing up in a rural place.
Right.
But we had
but a farm. Yeah, that just seems
he went
country.
to Virginia or West Virginia, and that's where he'd go for the horses.
Okay.
And he wanted me, I think one of the reasons my dad, amongst many others, my dad became close with my little sister was because she was into horses and I was an indoor boy from day fucking one.
Yeah.
And we tried to get me to ride a horse. I took one horse lesson. I was just a sensitive little boy and we were moving fast. And I think my balls hit the saddle, which is just common. If you're going to ride horses, your balls are going to take a beating.
That's rough.
And I just started crying and I said, I'm never riding a horse again. And my dad said, I need to have another kid.
Yeah.
And so my dad taught me in his truck, which was a massive fucking truck that was impossible to navigate. And my dad didn't follow the rules. So I'd be like, can I take a U-turn on the highway? And he'd be like, I don't see any cops. And you're like, okay, you're not a good teacher.
Right. And you were, that's kind of interesting because it's like, here, I'm going to teach you how to ride a horse. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to teach you how to ride a truck. I can't do that either. So
my dad had a series of disappointments.
Yeah.
If he just said, I'm going to teach you how to sing a ballad, we would have really gotten along.
Well, my dad held out hope. I have one brother. And the last time he really connected with my brother, he brought him down. My brother's probably like 6 or 7 at the time. He signs him up for baseball. And my dad's like, he loves baseball. And so he always imagined playing baseball with his son and that his son would be really good at baseball. My brother is like you on a horse, and he was just sitting down in the outfield. My dad was just like embarrassed. Exactly. Right, and that was the last time he took my brother down for the summer. So I think those expectations of like, even a parent who's not there has these expectations of their children. And when it's not met, they're like, well, maybe the next kid, or maybe not at all.
Sure. My dad, for me, he definitely wanted me to be into sports. And not just playing them, but like watching them. And I mean, he would tell people, he pretended I was into football for so long. He would tell other people like, oh, my son loves the Washington Redskins at the time. And knows all the stats. And I was like, I do not. I don't care about any of this.
Wow.
You got to take the things you get. We watched Seinfeld together, but you got to just accept or have more kids and roll the dice.
But it's nice to not have any, like, because I have a kid, I don't have any expectations of like, it would be wild for me to think I'm going to like, if you're not interested in basketball or corn picking or comedy or, whatever, that like, that's going to affect how I feel about you. If a kid is interested in anything that's positive, that's awesome.
Of course, that's the elevated
so
position.
musical theater, or
Sure, my dad could have gotten into it. I just think parents they have these expectations that I think they're tough to get rid of. I think a lot, especially with like men and like if they have a gay son. I think like the same way sports is a point of connection, like straight men being like, son, look at the legs on her. Like that is a point of bonding.
Right.
And I think like sometimes parents' reaction to someone coming out is also related to them going, oh, fuck, I can't relate to my child in this way.
Right.
And it's like it's trying, the elevated position is there's a lot of different ways you can relate to a human being. And yeah.
Yeah, because my brother is also gay.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So I'm sure that was, and we knew from such a young age that he was gay. And so.
What age would you say?
3.
And do you think, I think it's as someone who like is effeminate.
Right.
And I feel like if I had come out later in life, that people would go, oh, we knew from 6, because I display that. Do you think you really knew, or there were just traits that felt traditionally feminine?
Yeah,
like, what
it was based on stereotypes.
Sure, but that's what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And at 3?
Yeah, I just remember he was so young when we like first started thinking, oh, maybe he's gay. And so whatever it was, it was right. But even when he came out, my mom was denying it.
Really?
She just thought, because she was like, no, he's just like Jim Carrey. And we were like, what does that mean? And like,
is
weirdly,
he gay or
right?
Jim Carrey?
Right. On this week's game show. Yeah. So it was, she just thought he was like performative and like, meanwhile he's not at all.
Yeah.
She just thought he was silly. It's so stupid.
Is your brother the youngest?
He's the second youngest.
Mm-hmm. Why did your mom keep having kids with this kind of nightmare? Was she in love?
Back then, I think my mom had her first kid at 23. And I think you're just rolling with it. And my mom would always say, like, I never imagined your dad would be a bad dad. And I said, what is your evidence? And she was like, I think she was trying to wish that into existence. But turns out my dad said he never wanted any kids. And so they just keep having kids. You don't use like back then, and like my mom is Catholic or was at the time. You just don't use, you can't even afford condoms. I mean, we were like on public aid, but like, no, it was just like
This was
stupidity.
before they had condom bowls out in places.
Yeah, before
so
they were
just
free.
raw dogging every time.
Yeah. And it was probably like, he was in and out of town. So it just like, I guess it just worked a lot.
Yeah. Or, when people come back from a trip, you're like, we gotta go to town.
They say like in a relationship, you should, allow yourself to miss a person. And so I guess they did that to the extreme.
Yeah, that nothing like that 2 years away in Arkansas sex.
Right.
That's the best.
Like, well, I'm just here fending for our family.
I just feel like because you said there wasn't a lot of money either. I just feel like the third time you get pregnant, you go, oh no, we gotta switch holes, or we gotta do something to like. We cannot have five.
That's the thing. You do have another hole you could have been messing with the whole time. I should ask my mom. Should we get her on the phone? How come you didn't go for anal after that third kid?
So what changed where your mom said, we got to fucking go?
It was like in a moment of like throwing stuff, kicking her, violence, physical violence, where she said, this is it. Like, I think in that situation, you're always thinking about it. How could I leave? She tried to leave a couple times and like move up to Chicago, but like, it's hard to leave those situations. It's really, really hard. And a lot
with kids.
And people weren't taking her in. Honestly, it's like she has family, but like my mom was a burden, And so it was really too bad. I saw a couple of times where she did try to leave when she had 2 kids or she had 3 kids. And then eventually in this time, it was just ready. She was ready to actually do it and to say, I don't care where we're going. I will find us a way that isn't here.
And okay, so you're 12?
Yeah.
12. Your older sister is what?
She's 13.
These are young. These are young. 13, 12, and then younger.
It was like 13, 12, 9, 5, and 2.
So I'm just trying to like figure out how she did. So she has a night. It's a terrible night. You guys are all in the house. Just you go in the room and just you hear this thing. Are you shouting? Are you?
He's in the living room. He throws this incredibly large atlas book at my head. I duck. And TV
was he mad about something in specific, or was he just on
yes, of course. It's not anything that means anything. It's like a TV, like we wanted to watch something else that wasn't baseball, and that just sets him off. He's probably been drinking. It goes to like one, and then he throws something at my mom who's holding my baby sister, and like it just was enough where I don't remember the day specifically. There are like parts of it I remember, like us all running in the car and like my dad leaving. And
was it that night?
It was like a day. Yeah.
And is he fighting this at all? Is he not in the house?
So he leaves after that and goes to the bar or whatever. And then we tried to get ready while he was gone. We thought, okay, we got a couple hours.
And you were all on the same page. No one said, I want to stay with dad, or I miss dad, or what are we doing? You were all gone.
Well, the funny thing about it is like, I'm 12 years old. We're moving to Chicago, and we're like, I'm like, give me the fuck. Like, we live in this house in the country that like barely has electricity. It has like a water pump. It's like, we want to get the fuck out of here.
And you knew what was out there? You'd been to Chicago?
Yeah, because my family, my whole family lives in Chicago, besides my immediate family. So I knew what was out there, and I knew that like
you're like, there's stores that are not associated with farming.
Exactly.
That are just clothes.
Exactly. They probably have a really big farming fleet in Chicago.
And who took you in when you?
My grandma and my grandpa. So we've lived with them for a couple months, and I started junior high in right outside of Chicago.
When you met kids in junior high, were you like trauma dumping right away? Were you like, hi, I just moved here from my abusive dad in Normal?
If you asked my friends, they might not even have any idea to this day. I never told them. And I was just always like, I almost like alluded like in a flirty way that like I had like a cool dad, you know, and it's just like you guys haven't met him.
You should see my dad throws not with
Yeah.
great accuracy, but really hard.
Right. He's great at baseball.
And you stay with grandma and grandpa. Were they good? Good house? Were they good?
Great house. Like my grandparents
And that's a nice.
are awesome.
That's what you should do as a grandma and grandpa. But still, it's a good deed. It's a mitzvah to take in.
Well, they hated it. They hated living with us. Of course, there's 5 children coming in. We're like all monsters.
I mean, that's wild.
Yeah. We're monsters. Yeah, and then we end up like, you know, then I basically have my second part of my growing up right outside of Chicago.
And this is right around puberty. This is the whole.
This is a good,
the whole shebang.
It's a great time for like everything to be, you know, hitting the fan.
And did you see your dad again after that?
You know, it's really weird that we're having this conversation because I cut him out of my life. And then a year ago, I went to go see him and reunited with him.
In Normal?
Outside, like actually like in the country. Like in the place that we actually grew up outside of Normal is like called Armington, and there's no store. We lived outside of town. It's nothing. It's a cornfield. 350 people. And so I met with him. And I got to connect with him a little and like humanize him and like have a lot of empathy for the fact that like he grew up in a shitty situation and he was kind of just like doing that same thing, you know, when he got older. He was like basically doing what he could or what he knew. And so you know, I got to humanize him. And then it's so funny because I'm just meeting you and it's 10 a.m. but whatever. And then 2 days ago, so I went on a motorcycle I went on a motorcycle ride with my dad, you know, like while I was out there and stuff. I made like a documentary about it. And then 2 days ago, I find out that he's been like this horrible motorcycle accident.
Oh my God.
And
I'm
he
so
was,
sorry.
no, I mean, it's it's extremely weird because it's like this person who I like grew up like, I wouldn't say despising, but just being like, that guy, he's like out to lunch. Like he doesn't know how to raise his kids. And
Yeah.
like, but then I had this moment with him. And so he was like airlifted, like they didn't know if he was going to make it. And I think he's going to, but it's like, it puts like his children in such a weird position too. Like, cause you should never like, your kids should never be confused about like if something bad happens, like how they should feel.
Yeah.
You know, and like my other siblings, 3 of them haven't seen him since they were kids. So it's like telling them a stranger has been in a motorcycle accident. But he's I think he's gonna pull through, which is awesome. Because we had been texting for the last year. But also it's not just about me. I mean, I just like
How old is he?
empathize with that. 65.
65.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just because he also said he's in bumfuck nowhere. So how long did it take for that helicopter to fucking airlift him?
Yeah,
Where was the
exactly.
nearest helicopter?
I have no idea, and I still don't know how. We still don't know how it happened because it was at 8 in the morning. I think it was like pretty early, but like my family's like, you know, there's a part of my family that's so white trash. Like they were just like so trashy that like, you know, there are funny moments in situations like this. Like, you know, my stepmom immediately is like a conspiracy theorist and thought like, you know, well, don't give him that. Don't tell anybody which hospital he's at in case someone tries to go finish him off, and like immediately thinks it's like it's a hit, you know.
So you say your stepmom, his
But
new.
well, yeah, but they're divorced now. But yeah, she thinks that it's like an inside job or something.
That you're who is out to get your dad?
Exactly. Who's out to get this guy that like lives in like a trailer in the country by himself, you know?
How was he doing? Did he have any money? Was he still living a same life? I mean,
last I heard he was living in a trailer behind her house, but he might have moved into another place outside of I want to say it's like an hour from Nashville. And
Is he in a coma? Right? Is he out right now? Have you
He's
spoken
out
to him?
of a coma.
He's out of the coma.
I think I'm going to go there on Sunday. I'm going to fly to Nashville.
And do you feel, you know, my father and I have a tough relationship, not quite this tough, but you know, it's he had heart surgery last year, and there is a kind of automatic pipeline to emotion when you see someone in a hospital bed,
Right.
and you're just like, I think for me, I just go like, someday I will be in a bed, and death will be awaiting me, and I just want love. What else can you want in that moment?
Right.
Do you get very emotional seeing him like that? I mean, it's been so long.
Yeah. I've seen a photo of him. My sister sent me a photo because she's in contact with him, my older sister, and she went to the hospital. And yeah, it's like, you know, my dad was always a big, strong guy, for better, for worse, like my entire life. And so to see him like that is super tough. But I'm telling you, the emotions are all over the place, where it's like, yes, I'm sad. Yes, I'm empathetic. And then like you immediately relate it to your relationship with that person. And I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to just like compartmentalize like that this person is like hurting. But it's yeah, it's wild.
Do you feel I feel like the hardest thing about my dad getting older is like there's nothing left to do with my anger towards him because he's so weak.
Right.
So so I just have to kind of have that exist, and there's nothing to do with it. And like there was a time when my dad was in his 50s where I could fucking yell. We could yell, and he's a yeller. So
right.
I could like get some kind of cathartic moment of like, fuck you.
Right.
But now it would be like yelling at an old, and my dad's older. My dad's gonna be 70 in January.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do with those?
You know, it's interesting when like there's like I've heard a lot of people that have dads, and it's like, you know, you grew up yelling and fighting with them and stuff, and then they're, I don't know what someone was like, and then their testosterone levels go down or whatever, and it's like, yeah, and they become like a different person, and a lot of times they become like a shell of a human, because I just think that they fought so much in their like, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, that it's just like nothing affects them. And I was not angry at my dad, you know, this whole time that he hasn't been here. I felt really bad for him. And I mean, I felt for him. I felt worse for my mom, but like, I feel like, oh my God, that's like so horrible that you have all these children doing these like great things, and you can't even experience it because you can't even like step up to the plate. And that's like sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does your mom give a shit?
She's, you know, she does give a shit, but her emotions are all over the place too, because I think she's just trying to like figure out her emotions still, because of course she's sad. She was like obviously in love with him. She keeps having kids with this guy that keeps leaving, you know. She was, you know, she thought, yeah, I'm not sure how she feels about it yet.
Well, I'm sorry about your dad.
Oh my God, it's so interesting that I haven't even told. I have like friends who have been like texting and calling me that don't know like what's going on right now, and I just can't even meet the energy of like, you know, I can't even tell them yet. So
well, that's what podcasts are for. You know, you can send them a link to this episode, and you go, "Here's how I'm doing." I give it a listen.
I'm just imagining you like trying to cut this video into something funny. I'm like, you're gonna need a lot of sound effects.
What about it? My dad got into a motorcycle accident. Boing, yoing, yoing, yoing.
It's like,
yeah.
Put some fun font on there. Get some Comic Sans.
No, that's what I wanted out of a podcast. I think you totally try to find something in it. Just for people who are tuning in, this is The Downside, where we talk about the negatives and explore people's lives, but in an honest way. If you do like the show, check out, we have live shows on Amazon's new AMP app, 4 to 5 p.m. EST every Tuesday, or you can listen to those shows after the fact, these shows commercial-free and old bonus episodes on the Patreon, patreon.com/downside. That was a little promo.
Yeah, I love that.
So you're in this new high school. You're starting high school in Chicago.
It was junior high. Yeah. Junior high. Then I went
What is
to,
junior high? 7, 8.
yeah.
I didn't go by that.
Did you go
Where I
middle
grew up,
school?
it was middle school, high school.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know
Separate
my
things.
wife always gets very like weird about it when I say junior high because I'll say like, "Well, you went to junior high there." She's like, we don't have junior high out here."
Where's your wife from?
Here.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Got it. And were you able to make friends with the city kids, the city slickers?
Yeah, I mean, I made friends pretty quickly. I was like,
Because you were doing sports.
I did sports. I tried everything in growing up. Really, basically I tried everything but theater. So
Is that strange? Do you look back and go like, why didn't I?
I was so nervous. It's like
Really?
to me, yeah, it was horrible stage fright. There was no way I was going to try that.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm a stand-up, like I would never have imagined that.
But what's funny is like I played basketball and I had stage fright on the court. Like I
get that.
and so for me it's like that is a stage. In fact, it's
Right.
one where you cannot fake your ability.
Right.
I did one where like I missed. I was like the tall guy. So like I got the ball a lot and I missed every shot one game. Every shot. And the coach said like, "What?" He was this coach who was like, "What the fuck was that?" It was cool that he cursed at that age.
Right.
And I was like, there were two girls in the rat things who were watching me, and he was like, "Well, you're never gonna get those girls if you keep missing those shots." And I was like, "Oh God, I hate sports
Like
forever."
you really got me. Were you calling halftime intermission at that time, or were
I auditioned. I got a callback for the team.
there were two
I
girls in
learned
the
choreo
audience?
for the layups. No, I was just dreadful. I was just lazy. I didn't like to be. This relates to now me kind of being like, I was late to Barry's Bootcamp. There is a very direct correlation between I was a lazy kid and like something about the moment I feel on my foot's off the gas, I go like on that again. Or I resent
okay.
that. I resent the position that lazy kid put me in kind of later in life.
Right. Is there such thing though as like a lazy, ambitious person? Because I feel that a lot.
I think so.
Right.
I think sometimes people think of me as a workaholic, and I'm like, I think I'm always like working.
Right.
But within that work, I do it so much because I'm doing it halfway. And that's why I need all this time to work.
Got it. Yeah. I relate to that a lot. I feel like I do so many things. So it's like pushing everything up the hill, but it's like there's like 5 things.
Yes.
Where everybody's, I mean, do people tell you to pick a lane? Because I get it all the time. Pick a lane.
But this is why I think I like writing stand up. Because I really write it out. And I just bounce from chunk to chunk to chunk. And the moment I kind of get stuck here, I just move over here.
Right.
And I think that's something about stand-up fed into the way I really like to work. Where if I was working on like a novel, I just can't even imagine. Because I go, well, I have to. There's nowhere else to go but here. I can't go to this fucking section.
Right.
Stand-up
is good. I mean, it's like, I feel like it's like a good thing for workaholics because you always... You've never mastered. No one ever masters stand up. You just always have to keep working at it. Yeah.
I'm trying to master
just a few more years.
As I can. We had so I did these shows at Hollywood Improv, and the first show. And when you headline and it's like a tough audience, and people told me the small room and the improv can be tough, but I'm always like, I've heard too many comics, they talk about the room and the audience, and you're like, shut the fuck up.
You're like, watch this.
Shut the fuck up. No, I'm just like, talk about your joke. I'm just like, stop
blaming.
blaming.
You mean on the stage?
Just like after they're like, oh, that audience sucked. And I'm like,
right.
There's a part of me that I'm like, you can never do this. Never blame anyone but yourself. It's always you. Mm-hmm. And I had a tough show, the first show.
At the lab?
Yeah, it was just like these, I got to some of these dark jokes. And again, this is me blaming I go like, LA with some of these dark jokes can be tough.
Yeah.
Maybe right, maybe wrong, but I'll have a headlining set, and if it's a real tough show, I get halfway through and I go, fuck, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fill in the rest of this time. Mm-hmm. And then I go, I'm not a headliner. I can't do it. I spiral immediately.
Yeah.
And thank God the second show was good. Adam Sandler, Popeye to feature. But
Oh yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. There's a I think there's ghosts in the improv lab. I've actually been here long enough that I've seen like 3 different stages there, and it's always so at first it was set up and it looked more like you would do improv on that. Like we used to do sketch shows there.
Really?
Yeah, and there was no bar and it was more like a black box theater. And so it's always had that same energy. It's always had like I mean, we like Dana Carvey would pop in and like or like, big comics and couldn't get the crowd. I'm like, this place is spooky. There's
Uh-huh.
something wrong with this
Sure.
energy.
Sure. Uh,
So in that case, it is the room. I think with the improv lab, anytime someone says, when I went to Chicago, I did like Zanies, and I'm calling, it's like texting and calling my friends. I was like, this fucking sucks. I hate stand up. This show sucks. And they're like, yeah, you're at Zanies on a Monday night in Chicago. Like, let's not forget we came up in Chicago and that crowd sucks.
oh my God. I did Zany's Rosemont, and I wasn't allowed to advertise I was there because I had another show in Chicago in like a month or something.
Yeah.
So it was billed as the secret headliner night.
Oh my gosh.
And there were like 8 people there. And in my head, I don't know what I thought, but I was like, I'm going to crush with these 8 people. And I did not. And I just, the highs and lows. My girlfriend, she's a manager. But Adam Sandler's wife was there while he was performing.
Mm-hmm.
And she was taking copious notes. And my girlfriend was like, fuck, what are you doing? You're setting this horrible bar for me that I got to go take some notes in the back. But it was very funny. It was very sweet to see it. And very, it's nice. It's nice to have a comedy duo. I don't know if his wife is in comedy or just
she's an act. They met because she's an actress. And I think she's been in a couple of his like latest movies too.
Sure.
Yeah. Did you see his special that was on Netflix, 100%
I think I
Fresh?
watched like it in beat pieces, but yes.
It was one of my favorite specials of like the last decade.
Really?
Yeah. I thought it was so innovative. And like, there were moments of it. He really tapped into like, without it being like feeling like there was a story, like it was a one-man show. He like tapped into like vulnerability. Like I'm crying here. I'm like laughing here. I don't really care about this one, and that's fine.
I think what he has, which is like rare for people at that level of fame, is like he doesn't come off as a shitload of ego. He seems to really like, and he was up there, he was in basketball shorts, and as he does, but like I feel like
Sandler core.
Yeah. And maybe it's, if I'm sure it's partially an act, but there's a degree of like, you don't get that sense of him being like, I'm the greatest. I'm the GOAT for straight white guys who like to get high and watch
like guitars.
Nicky.
Yeah. No, he's very I've played basketball with him a couple times out here, and you could tell like I could probably tell that you're a great guy just the way that you play basketball, even if it is like missing every shot. I'd be like, you probably have a really good personality.
Really?
Yeah. Like you could, and there are a lot of comedians who play basketball out here.
It makes
and
me
some people fly off, and you go, are you okay in there?
Sure.
But Adam Sandler, he's very giving on the court, and he's a great passer, and he'll pass before he shoots. Like he's just like a good teammate. And so that's how I judge him. Like watch him like have all these bodies under his fingers. Like I thought he was a great person because the way he played basketball, but he's great. He's got like street ball finesse.
When we're off the mic, I want to hear what comedians say, what the fuck? And you're like, dude, this isn't you don't have to be good at this. I love doing other things that I don't have to feel like, oh, I need to be good.
Right.
Because I feel that with certain things very strongly. So if I'm going to play basketball, I'm going to have fun.
What about Barry's Bootcamp? Are you feeling like, is there like a system where you're like the highest number? Like...
I don't need to compete with the class per se. I like the competition. Like if I'm doing like Peloton, I like seeing the people's names, and I just like to go like, oh, I want to like stay above this person, just as motivation. But I think Barry's, it's just about like, when you're on the treadmill, they'll say, all right, let's do a run from 7, 8, or 9. And I know if I'm like really going at it, if I'm at 9, if I'm at the top of that range every time. So it's an internal battle. And it's more just like playing games with how bored I am.
Right.
And like, if you like, I've been on a really weird, I don't know what it is, but like I was a big Dragon Ball Z kid, and I'm not into any. Like I see the new stuff, and it feels like they've ruined everything. But like I'm still like I still watch it, and it taps into some weird nostalgia thing. So like I'm running, and there's a mirror right there, and it's just like I'm trying to like interest myself, and I think of myself like going Super Saiyan
Right.
in my mind, and I'm like that's what I do for Barry's Bootcamp.
Okay.
But for basketball, I think I would have a fun time. I think I'd be a terrible teammate. I think I tried once in basketball. I sprained my ankle comically fast. 10 seconds into the game, I was out.
You can't be like, basketball is just not one of those sports where you can just be like, I'll try it out like with like a 5-on-5. You know, it's just like, first of all, everyone's going to be mad immediately. And no one's going to pick you on their team. But then also you might get injured immediately, which is the worst.
Sure. I don't know what changed in me, because when I was in middle school, I was just bad at sports and no one could get me out of that funk. I was late. Soccer, I was defense. If the ball's on the other side of the field, I would lay down on the field. And I almost got like a C, or almost failed out of soccer. And I don't know because I look back at athletics, like I went to Birthright before I knew Israel had any problems. And there was like a sports day. And this was like after I had started working out.
Right.
And I was really excited to like finally be able to be a part of this and like be like race with someone. And I don't know why I couldn't tap into that as a kid.
Right.
And I was envious of the people. I mean, sports is such a great way to make friends.
It is.
And I couldn't do it.
You sound like my brother was, I mean, maybe you guys are the same age, but he was also into everything, laying on the soccer field, Dragon Ball Z, you know, like all of that, and super introverted. And he also just started to like kind of work out because he was never he played badminton on the girls' badminton team in high school, you know. So
was there only a girls' badminton?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so like he couldn't compete, but he was like on the team, but he just couldn't compete when the games would come up, or matches or whatever. And so he just started working out, and he's starting to get like kind of buff. But for him, it's like I think a lot of people do find this like new, like, oh my gosh, this is like something that I completely missed out on. Like, let me try this now that like I feel that same way about learning because I hated school growing up. And I'm like, oh man, I really wish that like I tapped into that earlier, but then at the same time, I probably wouldn't be a comedian.
Sure, we all
maybe
could go back. We all want to go back,
right?
Redo everything. So okay, you're doing sports. When did you come out as gay?
Oh, 24, something 24. Like that. Yeah, it was like I started comedy first, and then got into gay.
What is like, because I know, because I did a lot of theater.
Right.
So I feel like anyone who comes out after college, at least in my understanding of just knowing it, and more with men. I've known more men that have come out over the years. It feels like, where do you think, if we were to look at the graph of when people come out in life, is it college? Is that the top? Is 24 late?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But maybe not. Maybe it's different for like my brother came out at 17, and I think for like guys maybe it is like a bit different.
I feel like, or I just always wonder. I also wonder if, as hopefully we move as a progressive society, whether it becomes earlier and earlier.
College is probably the right time anyway. Like for me, I didn't know. Like I would have come out if I knew, but I had like boyfriend. I was like really, really busy lifting weights with my boyfriends, you know. I was playing basketball. I met my college boyfriend.
Oh, that's so funny. That's so funny.
Listen,
it's just funny when you look back and you go, oh yeah, obviously.
Right.
I love watching early Ellen DeGeneres stand-up tapes where she's in the baggiest suit you've ever seen in the world, and she's talking about how much she hates dating, and you're like, yeah, Ellen. Yeah.
I guess
you're almost there.
Right.
Is that what it felt like when you look back at all your boyfriends?
All of them did that thing where they said, "Are you sure you're not a lesbian?" And I was like, yeah, I'm not a lesbian, you know, so there
Did you
were
feel
signs.
sensitive? Were you like, shut up? Or were you like,
No.
shut up, get that dick out.
Yeah.
I'll show
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Hey, come here. Yeah. No, it was like, I wasn't sensitive about it. I just thought like, I didn't even let that seep in, you know? I was just like, no, here's another person telling me I'm a lesbian. No, you
Sure.
know, it's probably
Seems
with
funny
you
'cause
if
that's
people,
what I
yeah,
do when people say it to me.
exactly.
No.
No, but
And-
there were many
and
signs.
34 is when I go, wait
Yeah.
a second.
Hold on. Yeah, you know, there were signs, but when I started comedy, it like tapped into, like I said, had horrible stage fright. So it tapped into this like insane vulnerability where I was just like broken open. And then that's like someone flirted with me basically. And I thought about it for a second. I go, wait, oh, maybe I should follow that feeling. And so when I came out, I was already doing stand up and talking about my boyfriend in my set the whole time. And it was really hard for me to transition from being like someone who's talking about my boyfriend in my set to like, there were years of not talking about dating at all.
Yeah.
Because I just could not make that like, I'm gay on stage. So I just didn't talk. I mean,
It's funny because everyone who does comedy knows how long it can take to really fine tune a joke. And it is funny where like you're like, oh yeah, no, I'm out. I'm gay, but I'm still talking. The good jokes are still about this boyfriend,
right?
And fucking dudes,
yeah.
Like that's there can be a real delay,
exactly,
in that kind of stuff.
And as you know, the scene knew me as straight, and so like the comedy scene to me was like harder to come out to than my family, you know, and so. Because there is something to like being a lesbian in stand up. You're like, here comes another one, you know, and it feels like it doesn't feel special. And it's another, especially back then, you're putting a show together. You have one girl on the show. And you can't have two gay people on a show back then. So I'm putting myself in like, I'm getting less and less shows the more that I'm coming out as being myself. Because it's like, okay, maybe we'll have two girls, but we're not going to have two lesbians on the show, you know? And so you're just like, oh, geez, I just have to produce my own show.
Sure. I just remember when I booked a weekly show and I tried to think like honestly about like what were I think my only policy was just because it was me and another straight white guy were producing. It was just like only one more straight white guy. That was probably the only driving policy. And everything beyond that was just like, we did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
Yeah. It was, I mean, there used to be no one had any qualms about like just having, you know, 8 straight white men on the show. And to be honest, like that time in Chicago, that was most of the most of the scene was straight white guys.
Sure. And to be fair, if you look at touring, there is a thing where like, you know, white guys might complain in like a New York scene and be like, you know, they're not getting booked as much, or they feel that way. And I'm like, well, then go on the road and look at the national touring scene, because I promise you, most of these clubs are still very fine with having 10 weekends in a row of straight white guys.
Yeah.
So it's like people that complain about a local scene, you're like, oh, there's still a place for you.
Yeah, and this, you know, and it hurts to say this, but like you know, anytime I'm like upset that I didn't get something, I'm like, well, I'm not, like, sometimes it is because you're just not good enough yet.
Sure.
You know, and it's like, maybe you weren't out for the job, but also like, you know, they're not going to like pass you by if you're the greatest stand up.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
If you're the best, it will be recognized.
Yeah.
You're just not there yet.
Mm-hmm. And then once do you remember like the moment, did you have that like, so I recently realized I was gay? Like,
I remember like I think it came in. Oh, I had this joke that was like, I really tiptoed into it. I had this joke that was like, I'm single, ladies and gentlemen, and in that order. And like, so I would do that at the beginning of the set.
So you started as like, I'm bi in the set first.
Exactly. And then it would go to like, after that joke, just be like, that's an old joke, but my girlfriend loves that joke because it makes her appear to be single or something like that. Like, so then I was like admitting I had a girlfriend, and for a long time it was like, actually using like they them pronouns with my jokes. So I'd be like, I was holding their hand because I didn't want to say that like the joke was actually written about my boyfriend, but I didn't want people to know I was gay.
Sure.
Yeah. So it was like a lot of that. And then people would be like, I just think I thought I was like, I thought nobody could tell.
A whole hour where every time you talk about your partner, it's they there.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess these days people would just assume that was their pronouns, but there would be a time where they'd be like, oh, who are you dating?
Yeah.
And you're just like,
yeah,
I need this act to work at all over the country.
Right.
I'm a touring comedian.
You know what's great? What's great about stand-up is they love when they can't figure you out at all,
We had, do you know Ashley Gavin?
I've actually heard of her because when I'm on the road, we were on the road at the same time at a lot of clubs.
Sure. She has a podcast, We're Having Gay Sex, I believe is what it's called. But she talks about when she would do cruise ships for the family shows.
Ooh.
They told her, you can't be gay on these shows. And so essentially she would do that with her girlfriend material.
Oh my God, it's so wild. I'm sure she's on the Olivia cruise lines now. Got to get to the lesbian cruises.
Is that that's what's called, the Olivia?
Yeah.
Have you done them?
No, God, no. I'm never going on a cruise.
Really? I feel like a gay cruise would.
No, I'm not going on the boat. Like,
on the boat.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not going. I'm not dying on a lesbian cruise.
You're scared of dying?
I'm scared
of a
cruise. Yeah, I could never go on a cruise.
Really?
Everything
they're safer than planes. I never feel scared on a cruise.
Right. Everything about it makes. I've just watched too many of those documentaries, like inside of this, what it's really like to be on a cruise ship. And I'm like, oh my God, people are dying and they're just like in a room downstairs.
I heard a comedian talk about just the number of people who fall overboard, and they're drunk usually, but like what happens, like the idea of like, could you save them? And it's like, no, they got sucked into the engine that's down there. That's moving this gigantic thing.
Right.
It's a deadly engine.
Yeah.
And it sucked them in.
And they're like, Disney cruises. Come aboard, all aboard.
Well, before we go to our last part, I do want to. You have this kid now.
Yeah.
How old's your kid?
3. She just turned 3. Mm-hmm.
And you carried the kid.
Yeah.
And forgive my ignorance.
No,
was it a sperm donor?
Yeah, it's a sperm donor. Our really good friend, actually.
Really?
Yeah. So we have a great situation for us. He's he's a friend. He's at our house all the time. He's a great guy. He lives here in LA. Went to college with my wife.
How did you? So do you asked him together?
Sam asked him, which was cool.
Was it an automatic like? Sure. Did you talk about? What did you talk? I mean, since you're friends, you must have talked about what's his role.
So he was very responsible about it. Sam asked him, and he was going through a breakup. And
good time to ask.
I know. It was like
lost. He needs something.
Such bad timing, but it was so sweet because he said like, later it said like, I was in this position where I felt like unwanted, and then somebody was like coming here and being like, no, we actually want more of you in the world. Like we love you.
It is very flattering. I never really thought of it that it is flattering that someone's like, you're something about you. Yeah.
And my thinking, like we looked at sperm banks and stuff, but like I wanted to know that like they could look me in the eye and talk to me, and you can't get that off of like the stat list. And I just wanted to like, you just want someone to be like a good person. And at first I thought when I get in there, I'm going to get somebody who's like above 6'5". I'm going to get myself a little point guard at least, know? And you're looking at these stats and you're like, oh, these are all important. And my wife's like, oh, and this one went to Ivy League or whatever. And then truly you just go, don't you just want to know that this person is like a good person? Like that's it.
Sure. I think the cynic in me goes like, it doesn't matter if they're good or not. This is a lottery.
Right.
This is a lottery, and you could have Hitler's sperm, and it could be the nicest person ever. Like you just don't.
Yeah,
know.
and you wonder what is environment and what is genetic, and it just so happens he also is like extremely hot. So like that's
that is sure.
So that's really important to me. No, it's like he's a great guy. We have a great situation.
What was the discussion? Because I think in my mind, like, there's part of me that's like, oh, if a friend of mine wanted to do this, it seems very cool. It seems very beautiful.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then there's another part of me that goes, what is my role in this kid's life? Is this kid going to resent me in any way? Is this kid going to one day be like, expect some kind of parental thing from me? Like, I'm entering something big.
You also don't know how you're gonna feel. Like, what if you see that baby and you're so attached, and it's like you want more from the relationship that you thought more than you thought.
And then he's around, and then your kid calls him dad, and you're like, what's going on? Now
yeah,
I'm 3-person.
There's a lot of like, there's a lot of questions, but then it's weird because like when you're in it and then you're having the baby and stuff, you don't like, you think about all those questions before, and then you're in it and there's no time for that sort of thing. And you just know like, okay, this child is so loved, and the situation we have is perfect for us.
Yeah.
And so all of those worries kind of like went out the window. We trust me, like my wife and I talked about it a lot,
I don't know if you felt this way given your family situation, but because I had witnessed so much divorce, I feel like if I ever had a kid, I would be kind of obsessed with like the contingency plans, because I feel like breakups, divorces, friendships ending, whatever, with this situation adds a whole new element.
Right.
That like you have to trust the person's character, because breakups can bring out the worst in people by definition.
Right.
Like, do you trust this friend? If you guys, I mean, it's so
I
hard.
know.
Was he there for the delivery?
He came afterwards. Yeah, I didn't let anybody in and this was like pre-COVID, but
Oh, sure.
I didn't let anybody in there anyway. So it's like, enough people had looked at my vagina at that point, like leading up to the birth, that I was like, get the fuck out of here. You're not going to watch me take a shit before I have a baby, because that's what happens. And
is it no matter what? Like shit's
yeah,
involved,
it's
no
like
matter
always
what.
happening. Yeah, they don't even tell you, the doctor. The only reason I know is because my wife I was like, don't look down there, and of course she like looked, and I was like, did I just poop? And she said, yeah.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
But that was the thing. I was
and from the side, you rarely see poop at that angle.
I know. And she was like, it happened so fast, and the doctor just like, they know what to do. They just go like this, because he's telling me push like you're going poop, and so that was the thing I was worried about.
Dave,
leading
you're
up.
not gonna fool me, doctor. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. I'm gonna push like I'm going pee, and I was so worried about that. I thought, oh my God, how am I, like, what if I poop? The whole time I'm not like, what if I die during childbirth? I'm like, what if I poop? What if I poop? And then, so now when I'm on stage, I tell everybody, listen, you poop. Like, just get over it.
I feel like no one's explored that. Knocked Up had like a pretty funny birthing scene, and they had a shot of the baby coming out, but no one's ever done just poop everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, it would be intense.
It's just a lot. It's like what it does to your body. Like, I'm so happy I don't have it on film, because I would like it. It is so gnarly.
Yeah. And in terms of, I'm just so fascinated by it. This friend, sperm donor, how involved I feel like a thing that they'd have to have is someone who can understand natural boundaries. They have to have an understanding of it.
Right. And, he doesn't want kids. And so that helps. I think it would be tough if then you're in a relationship later and like, oh, let's have our own children. And like, that's always like a big conversation piece.
I'm sure is he straight or gay?
He's gay.
Okay.
Yeah.
That could still be a thing.
Right.
But I can certainly imagine.
Right.
Many women I would date who would, including my girlfriend, who would not be cool.
Right.
That I had a kid with someone else, however that happened.
Right. Having a kid is, it's a risk, and having a kid with a donor, you have all these added elements, but like I have never known a kid that has like as much love as she has. Like
True.
with his parents also love her, and it's just like so I know she's fine, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I like is like she won't have to go searching for the information, and that was
Sure.
important to us.
There's a comedian named Laura High who's a sperm donor, and she talks about, I think there's a real challenge of sometimes information about sperm donors, or you know, there's just the question of if they want to be anonymous, is that fair? I don't know. It's very complex, nuanced stuff that in a country that can't even agree on basic medical care to figure out feels
Right.
challenging.
It only now started to be covered by like, you know, the WGA and stuff with like fertility Medicare or whatever it's called. It's like it only started to be covered, I think, like after I had the baby. But
Did he go somewhere on his own, come in a cup, and they
it
stored
was
it?
the same place that we were getting you know, checkups and stuff. But
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Was
he
it
went
the
in there.
same day as was
It's
it
not the same day, then they put it on ice.
they put it on
Yeah,
ice?
and then because then you have to like wait for like, you know, when you're ovulating, and like you have to go in a few times. It's like it's like a huge process
Do they
because we
ever
didn't do
go?
the turkey baster thing, you know.
Is
The like
that's an option too?
Yeah, you can like just do it at home.
And you just do it real quick?
Yeah, or like people have done it real quick. You know, like Sabrina Jalise talks about like putting the sperm under her armpit to keep it warm, and then they got pregnant on the first try. But
Do they
you could
ever go
also put
like?
it on
Do they ever go
ice.
like, "Oh, you guys are friends. You know what would be easiest?"
Yeah. We always joke around that we're gonna do it the natural way. Just imagining how horrible that would be for everybody involved, and then having to explain, "This is how you were made, honey."
Oh, there's something beautiful. I guess two gay people
Two gay
just
people.
doing it for the baby.
It was really hard for him to get it up, and then finally he did, and that's how you were born, sweetheart.
All right, well, let's go on to our next segment. This has got to stop. We have music at home. I never bring the cues with me,
Oh yeah.
but that's how it goes. This has got to stop. Do you have something that's got to stop? Something, anything in the world that's bothering you, bugging you, that needs to go away. It could be wedding registries. It could be a phrase people use, airplane things, anything.
Yeah, I don't like when this is only done by guys that work at coffee shops, but like if I go up there, it's like a way to flirt, but if I go up there, I'm like, "Can I get like a iced oat milk latte?" No. No. And I'm like, "What?" And it makes you stop
100%
for a
agree.
second. I hate that
100%
joke.
agree.
Yeah. And I never give it to them. I go, "What?" And then they're like, "Just kidding." And I just go, "How much is it?" You know, I never give it to them. I hate it.
I know. It's bad humor. It's a form of I think whenever something's a real bad joke, it usually traces back to not, and that's what it is. It's
Not,
a
yeah.
total, even with stand-up comedy, sometimes I want to tell them like, that joke you're telling, the crux of the joke is you say something, then you go, "No."
Right.
And that's a lie, not a joke.
Right.
Yes, I'm trying to think of other things. I guess you're right. I feel like I've had men do it to me too. And maybe it's flirty.
I've never had a woman do it to me
Yeah.
yet, but I will feel like the world is truly equal when a woman makes that bad joke to my face.
I think I do get, sometimes I'll get, if I ask for like a red eye,
Mm-hmm.
they go, "Whoa, you're real sleepy or something." I'm like, none of your fucking business.
Yeah.
How I'm feeling. I'm at the coffee shop. Everyone here is sleepy.
There's something about the hackiness. It's just like the lack of creativity for me.
Yeah. So you hear that, baristas? You've had it too fucking good for too long. Go home, write some jokes, and maybe you'll get some better tips from me and Mo. Let's go on to our final segment.
Mm.
You better count your blessing. We have a much better sound cue here that, again, I don't have. But we're gonna say one thing we're thankful for. I do you have something?
If you have something, go ahead.
Sure. I did this show, Love It or Leave It, at Dynasty Typewriter, and I guess it is a pretty popular show. because it's one of those, as you know, you've been on TV. There's certain things that you do that like people from your past reach out and you go, oh, this is a level.
That's a
where
very popular show.
other people, yeah. And a guy named Eric Lind, who went to my high school, reached out, and he was like, oh my God, you're Love It or Leave It. We did Little Shop of Horrors together, and he was the plant. And it's I think one nice thing about doing this kind of work where your job is essentially to be seen is that, and maybe it's not healthy, but you get to like have these kind of brief connections with your past. And the reason it might not be healthy because the connection is an old person being like, hey, you're amazing. And you're like, great. Everyone from my past now knows that I'm great and it's all cool. And I don't think that's healthy, but it is cool. He came to the taping. And it's like, I'd get to see this like guy from high school who I would have never probably seen in any other circumstance. One day I would have been like, do you talk to Eric? And they'd be like, Eric died 20 years ago, but he's alive and he's well.
Right. And he's listening to me. And
he's watching me. This podcast now.
Yeah. I think you're right. It does. It keeps a conversation alive with people that you might not. And I think that is a very positive thing.
Yeah. Do you have, after you did like Conan, people reached out?
Yeah.
Were
it
they
was
complimentary, or were they weird?
Well, I had this, my high school boyfriend reached out and he was like, he sent me this email and he's like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you for doing Conan. That's so great. I told my mom and she said she never thought you were funny. Haha. And then I just emailed back, well, you could tell her I never thought she was funny. And that's all I emailed back.
Good for you.
Yeah, I was
good for you. I have a bad tendency of going, thanks for sharing that with me. Good for you. I hope he told her mom, and I hope her mom cried, and I hope her mom wished she had been on Conan.
Yeah. I'm like, what a negative thing to bring into a congratulatory email. Thank you.
Do your old boyfriends, do they ever, when you see them and now that you've come out, do they ever go, do the ones who said, are you a lesbian? Do they go like, I knew it. They called it.
You know, to my credit, they were heartbroken.
Really?
No, I had this guy didn't talk to my college boyfriend didn't talk to me for forever. And recently, a couple months ago, had text or like found me on Instagram and was very sweet and was like, I'm really proud of you. Cause I started comedy when we were dating. And he said, I'm really proud of you and all that you've done. I hope you're doing well. And I just thought that's extremely sweet. And that's the way to do it.
But my mom said, you'll never get pussy.
My mom said she knew you were a dyke the whole time.
I just remember I dated. I wish I could have dated, but it was she was bi, and I remember when she wasn't into me, she was like bi, but like generally dated women, and I was comforted by the fact in a moment where I was like, I think I did a thing toxic, sure. I said, she's a lesbian.
Right.
And then she like got married to a man and I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, God.
She must be. You don't like me because you're definitely a lesbian.
I'm sure that's an emotional thing. People who are bi that get left, they go like, oh, well, she's not into my gender. That's what
me.
It is.
Yeah. There's also something to like when I was in my 20s, I hated telling guys that would like gross guys that would hit on you like at a bar. Like I hated telling them that I was gay because I wanted to be like, no, the reason I'm actually denying you, I didn't want to give them that like, oh, that's why you're not into me. I wanted to be like, no, it's actually just because of your general aura, like, your personality.
You could say, you know what? Now I'm gay.
Yeah.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
When I met you. Now I'm gay.
Now I'm realizing all these signs. Yeah. That was fun in my 20s.
Do you have a blessing?
Oh my God, blessing. I almost said oat milk, and I just can't be that LA yet.
That is really LA.
It is. I guess since everything that we've talked about, it's a blessing. I think motorcycle helmets are a blessing.
And he was wearing a helmet.
He was wearing a helmet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So motorcycles, like everyone always says, don't drive motorcycles. They're so dangerous. People get into accidents. It's like, it's just one of those things where you go, yeah, you're on a motorcycle, but motorcycle helmets.
When you rode the motorcycle with your dad, were you riding it with him?
Yeah, I was on the back.
I mean, it's so like, I get like someone riding a motorcycle and like riding on the back. It's so sexy. It's so, I mean,
it was sexy.
But there is something so like, I flew in a plane, a private plane as a comedy club owner who had a little plane. And I just thought in that moment, like, my life is in your hands. I wouldn't say like I'm in love with you now, but like there is now a position where you are my leader.
Right.
Because, and there's something about that with
You're
the
right.
motorcycle.
It's scary and sexy. It's
Yeah.
the riskiness of like, yeah, I'm flying private, but this might be my last, Yeah,
So
of course.
thank God for helmets
And comedy club owners.
And comedy club owners, yes. And this episode is coming out October 4th. Is there anything you'd like to plug? I think so.
Yes. In Chicago, I'm going to be at the Lincoln Lodge taping my album October 8th. And October 24th in LA, I'm actually going to be filming the stand-up portion to the documentary that I made about meeting my dad. So if you want to hear more about my relationship with my dad, come on out to that. That's at the Lodge Room, but you can just check out my website or my socials.
Has your dad seen it?
No.
Do you want him to see it? Or you think he's going to be like, this makes me feel?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it turns out. There's like a bit of an epilogue happening right now. I'm trying not to think about it, but the story's not over.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. We have these connections when you're an artist. I don't know if you feel the way where you're like, am I invested in this for the final product or for the emotions I'm feeling? It's just a lot. And I would argue the product is connected to the emotions.
Like what is, you're like, what am I following this or am I creating, am I the leader or am I the follower? It's like, especially with documentaries, you just have, because I hate talking heads and like all of that. I try to make it like as real as possible, but if
I was your stepmom, I would think the conspiracy is you were just trying to find a finish to your piece.
Yeah, so it could be me. Yeah. Oh my God.
For me, I'm headlining Uncle Vinny's Comedy Club October 7th, October 8th. I'll be headlining Philly Punchline October 16th. And then Canada, I'll be in Edmonton October 20th through 23rd. 7 shows. Jesus fucking Christ.
In the mall?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been there?
I've heard of it.
I got to get my global entry pass. I cannot wait in this customs line. I submitted. I think I fucked up. They asked for my employment in the last 10 years. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
Don't let anyone
I don't know
Edmonton.
What to tell you.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
And for those of you listening, whether you have a good relationship with your dad or a bad relationship with your dad, one day you'll have no relationship with your dad because he'll be dead. This is The Downside.
1, 2, 3. Downside.